tuning your differential and your transmission is a very important step in perfecting a vehicle's handling techniques towards your ideal vision. In today's video, I'm going to go over a few of the steps in transmission tuning and differential tuning and how each individual aspect of that will affect your vehicle's handling, and as well as how to tune it towards what you would prefer to drive with. So to start off, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone for just hitting 700 subscribers on my YouTube channel. It means a lot to me, and as I get ever closer to 1,000 subscribers, it truly just means the world. If you're a fan of this style of content, please consider subscribing, as I will be posting lots more in the future. So, with vehicles with manual and automatic transmissions, the basic principles are exactly the same. For this video, I'm using the 2020 Toyota Supra RZ, which is equipped with the 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, with either transmission, you switch to a sequential transmission, which is fully customizable. Let's go over some of the things that you can adjust inside of the transmission first. First off, we're talking about Top Speed Autoset. Now, what this will do is this is the most basic form of transmission tuning that I highly recommend beginners start to mess around with before getting into the more in-depth stuff. So what Top Speed Autoset will allow you to do is, for example, it will allow you to, if your car comes standard with a 300 km/h top speed, you can adjust it to 350 km/h. And what this will do is it will lengthen all 8 gears for the Supra, for example. It will lengthen all 8 gears and automatically suit that so that the car is now based around having a 350 km/h top speed. Next up, we're going to talk about final drive. This is the next step in order to kind of suit the car towards your characteristics. Final drive is very similar to Autoset. What the final drive allows you to do is the final drive is inside of your differential, and what this will do is change all gears to suit certain characteristics. So for example, a higher final drive ratio means shorter gears. A lower number for your final drive is longer gears. Say for example, your car comes with a 3.73 rear final drive ratio. If you adjust that to a more aggressive 4.10 ratio, that will give you slightly shorter gears, which means quicker acceleration off the line, but lower top speed. If you adjust that 3.73 to, let's say, a 3.35, then what this will do is it will give you longer gears, which means less acceleration, but more top speed. Now, the numbers I'm using here are not, the only numbers you can use. You can adjust the final drive ratio to exactly what you would like to have in your car. And how you know to do this is by lots and lots of practice and trial and error. There is no other way to really perfect a car without truly learning how to drive it and where you need to improve the car. And if there's one thing you can take away from final drive, just know lower number is more top speed, higher number is more acceleration. Next up, let's talk about individual gears and adjusting that. I'm going to give a real life driving example. So, let's say you are driving the Supra, like I'm using for this video, and you find that in third gear, the car has a very short third gear. Let's say third gear is a little too short, and then fourth gear feels appropriate. What I would recommend doing is just lengthening third gear a little bit, bringing the number down a little bit. And what that will do is it will lengthen third gear a little bit so that it's a much closer ratio to fourth gear. This same principle applies to all gears inside the transmission. It is once again like the final drive, just requiring lots of practice and time trial practice and just learning the car so you can find out what you like. Another real life example of this would be, let's say there's one corner on the Nürburgring which you don't necessarily want to shift up for, but it would be more useful to just hold the one gear. What I would do is, let's say it's a high-speed corner and you want to hold 5th gear. Lengthen 5th gear a little bit so that you get that tiny little bit of extra acceleration time before having to slam on the brakes. What this will do is it will save you time from, instead of having to shift into 6th, you just stay in 5th and then get on the brakes. This is a much more in-depth step, and I only recommend this for people who are really trying to eke out the extra tenths out of their lap times. And it's not necessarily for beginners until you feel comfortable doing so. So to summarize, in terms of transmission tuning, I would first start messing around with, if you're really new to transmission tuning, use the top Speed Autoset. If you're feeling a little more ambitious, try adjusting the final drive. And once you're comfortable with the final drive, make specific little fine-tuning adjustments using the individual gears to suit the car and track. Next up, let's talk differential tuning. I'm going to be primarily talking about differentials in a rear-wheel drive oriented car, as that is what most vehicles in Gran Turismo Sport are, and most vehicles you'll end up driving are. So with most vehicles, you will switch to a fully customizable mechanical limited slip differential. Now, how a limited slip differential works is, once the differential detects enough slip difference between the two wheels, it locks the two wheels in the exact same rate of motion. On a car without a limited slip differential, both wheels are not connected and they will move at different speeds, for example. So if you're driving a very old muscle car and you get on the power, you notice that one wheel will really spin up while the other one barely moves. This is because the vehicle is not equipped with a limited slip differential. So let's talk differential tuning. And for differential tuning, most cars, I don't feel that you need to really adjust the differential tuning unless there are some specific instances within the handling of the vehicle that you want adjusted. The first setting we're going to talk about is limited slip differential initial torque. What this will do is it adjusts the amount of power needed for the limited slip differential to activate. So a lower number means you will need more power for the differential to activate. So you'll need to get much more throttle in order for the differential to activate. What this means is you will get a much quicker turn in than with a locked differential. And what this will mean is, with the extra turn in, you will get a more oversteery car on initial turn in. If you have a higher sensitivity for the initial torque, what this means is your car will be more likely to understeer. So what I would recommend doing, if your car oversteers quite a bit, I would bring the number higher up. And if your car is understeering a little bit, I'd bring the number down a little bit. Again, this is once you have lots of practice driving the car and you know that that is what would help it. Next up, let's talk about acceleration sensitivity. What this will do is it adjusts acceleration while turning. So for example, this will help with putting power down once you are exiting a corner and accelerating. When it comes to acceleration sensitivity, a higher number activates earlier, which would induce more oversteer characteristics. So if you're having trouble with oversteer exiting a corner, what I would do is turn the acceleration sensitivity down a little bit. And if you're having trouble with understeer, I would increase the acceleration sensitivity by a little bit. When it comes to differential, adjustments of a little bit make a huge difference. Lastly, I want to talk about LSD braking sensitivity. Now what this is kind of a trick question because it's not necessarily under braking, it's more under engine braking. So once you're off the throttle, you're in gear, and you're not super hard on the brakes. So most cars, for example, when you are just engine braking and not very much on the brakes, they will have a tendency to lift off oversteer. So what this means is the back end of the car will be a little unsettled when you're off the throttle. What this will do is if you adjust the braking sensitivity to be higher, it will help limit your oversteer on turn-in. But the negative side of that is it will induce understeer. And then of course the opposite goes as well. The lower number will induce oversteer on turn-in. So finding the perfect balance is something that, like with your transmission tuning, will take a lot of practice in order to perfect. But once you have your transmission and your differential set up, you are set to go chase lap times consistently and professionally. If you combine the transmission and differential techniques Along with the suspension and handling tuning guide that I made earlier, you can really perfect the car exactly to how you like it. There is no car that is perfect for each and every person stock in terms of handling. And this is why tuning is in Gran Turismo Sport. It allows you to perfect the vehicle to your specific preferences in terms of handling. So if this video was helpful to you, I highly recommend you leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, as I post lots more content like this in the future. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.